Okay, this is film class. This is week 7, part 8. And now we're going to talk about the final act of the film. The girls are grounded, they're trapped, they imagine vacations because they can't actually leave. And the boys across the street, the nerdy boys, buy the same catalogs to look at the same pictures and imagine themselves on that same vacation, as if they're with them, including Cecilia, who's dead, which is quite beautiful. They really want to be there for these girls. They want to save them in some way. And it's sort of a lovely, sort of sweet idea. But again, the like Tripp's experience of Lux, all of this is much more than they bargained for. They think they know what they're getting into. They can imagine. They don't really know what the world of adulthood and sex and love and also just complicatedness that's behind people. And these girls are... There's a lot going on that you can't see. And they remain mysterious. But there's a very heartbreaking moment in the film when they talk about the nerdy boys that are narrating the film say, these imaginary vacations scarred us forever. Imagining being on vacation all over the world with these girls scarred them forever. Why? Because it forever made us happier with our dreams than with our wives. That is heartbreaking. The imagined life with the Lisbon girls is more beautiful than any real world experience they could have, and so nothing lives up to it, and they feel almost ruined. It scarred them forever because these girls were so beautiful and so mysterious and so aloof, and then gone, so thoroughly gone that they could never be brought back. That they can't be happy with a normal everyday life. They just get married and they have the day-to-day life with their wives, but they spend their time, even as adults, still dreaming about those Lisbon girls. It's worth pointing out that this is the kind of thing that movies do to people also. Movies can be so beautiful that you may not be happy with your real life. And this is true of romantic movies, which may show you romance. It may show you like Disney movies with princesses and princes getting together and living happily ever after. May be so beautiful that you can never be satisfied with a normal human being who's not a prince. But similarly, hardcore pornography may also present you with sort of sexual imagery that is too much. That you will never be happy with normal day-to-day sex because you're used to the sex that's shown in hardcore pornography. I think I'd say that, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, I may say that again when we get to Vertigo, but we'll get there. But this idea that films in general may be so beautiful that you can't be happy in your life. If you know the philosopher Plato, he was very against art, which is a strange thing to be against. How can you be against art? Plato was against art. For reasons exactly like that, because it leaves you unsatisfied and distracts you from what really matters, which is reality. But that's the experience these boys are having. And it is thoroughly imaginary because they're even beginning to forget the girls. Okay, cool. Oh, I love the way, by the way, one of the boys says that the trick to girl, you gotta keep chicks guessing. Meaning that you gotta pretend you like it. She says she loves you, and you don't say it back because you gotta keep chicks guessing. It's funny, that's the boys' attempts to be mysterious. It's, oh, don't tell her you like her. But the girls are mysterious in a much more radical way. They're much harder to approach. It's not just their mystery is not just a game. It's something more serious. Cool. Okay, I'd already talked about all the music stuff, so I'm doing good on that front. Let's keep going. The girls, by the way, tell the parents, it's easy to miss, it's kind of blink and you'll miss it moment, but the girls tell the parents that they are, one of the girls says that she can't breathe, she's suffocating in the house with all the burned records and they have no happiness and no joy, and that they're suffocating. They try to communicate that to the parents, but the parents ultimately can't hear them. They just don't listen. The parents are so scarred from having a child that died that they want to keep the girls safe. But keeping the girls safe, they understand, meaning don't let them out of your sight. But that means the girls can't live and they can't grow, and then they don't want to be alive. And again, it's not as dramatic as there's severe religious people who are beating their children or the dad's molesting them or something, but like, it's pretty intense. When the nerdy boys finally come over to the Lisbon girls to kind of, in an idea they're going to rescue them, it's heartbreaking. It's completely heartbreaking and beautiful, and I love it so much. It's really the heart of the film, and the most extraordinary moment is the youngest, smallest boy they're all talking to Lux, who's smoking a cigarette and looks very world-weary and kind of, she knows what's going to happen tonight. So I think some of her sisters are already dead at the point at which she's talking to them. There's a fascinating moment where she invites the boys in, and the littlest boy, she undoes his belt just a little bit, as if to suggest they're all going to get sex inside with all the girls, which is the thing they've dreamed of, probably. But this isn't going to be that. And it's such a heartbreaking little detail that she sort of undoes his belt a little bit before he enters to find all these dead girls. And then she undoes his belt and walks off to go die in the car by carbon monoxide poisoning. And the boys have this vision. There's this moment where you think, yeah, they all escape and they're all on the road together and they're all happy. But like, that vision of freedom is a lie. That's what they're dreaming of, is being in a car with all these girls and just being free and driving away. But it's not how it goes. Cool. Good. This is going really well. And this has haunted these boys into adulthood. This movie is clearly being narrated from 25 years later, which means all these boys are now much older, and they're older grown men with wives. You never see them, but I think it's implied that they have them, and that it's haunted them for everything. The mother says that there was lots of love in this house, and she never understood why the girls all killed themselves. And it's again because the girls remain mysterious also to the parents. The suicides at the center of this movie is a radical kind of mystery that no one can get over or deal with in any way. Also notable that the girls die in different ways. Cecilia attempts some kind of death in a bathtub, possibly pills or razor blades or something. Oh, it's razor blades, of course. What am I saying? I don't know what it is. It's razor blades. You see the bandages on her wrists. So she starts with Cecilia starts with slitting her wrists. That doesn't work. And then she jumps onto the fence and dies. One of the girls puts her head in the oven and dies from the gas that powers the stove. One of the girls hangs herself. We're told one of the other girls dies by pills, and Lux dies with carbon monoxide poisoning. And the boys conclude by sort of saying that they had all the pieces, all the information they needed, but that there were always gaps remained. There were these sort of emptinesses around the girls that they could never figure out or put together or understand. They were mapped by what surrounded them, which is such a beautiful line, that these objects that they had tells you something about them, but doesn't ultimately get at kind of the heart of the mystery of them. Interestingly, the boys described the girls as a country they couldn't name. And again, if I can connect to Hamlet, Hamlet describes death as the undiscovered country. That's the country they can't name, is death. What's interesting is the virgin suicides, these girls who've killed themselves, that death is coming for every human being. Not necessarily like suicide, but it's, it's out there. Everybody's story ends the same with death. And so these boys, the other part, mentioned part of the growing up and the mystery of growing up is finding out about sex. But of course, the other thing you find out when you grow up is you realize you're going to die, just like everybody else. And it's a big part of what they're realizing in this film. And it haunts them forever, and they kind of can never get over it. Cool. In the sort of epilogue of the film, it's interesting. They mentioned that Cecilia slitting her wrists spread a kind of poison. And then in one of those great Sofia Coppola metaphors, she mentions that, some kind of factory fucked up the lake and caused the algae to bloom, and it caused just a stench all over town. But again, it's one of those metaphors that, like, this kind of, the death of these girls sort of haunts, Cecilia's suicide maybe, like, poisoned the minds of people near her sisters, but that also the whole town has been poisoned by what all the girls have done, and the metaphor for that large poisoning is sort of the algae lake that makes everything disgusting, and then so somebody has a gas mask themed party, and then life tries to go on as normal, but it feels like these suicides have poisoned the entire world, and then you see other kinds of poisoning. It's not just a random girl at the party. One of the normal girls, the boys who've been fascinated by the Lisbon girls, she throws up. So she has kind of like alcohol poisoning. And then someone else mentions, oh, my son's caught the acting bug from his friend. Again, like the decision to be an actor is like a disease that you can catch from another person. The metaphors of disease and destruction is spreadable, is haunts the whole movie from beginning to end. Okay, I'll see you in the next video and the last one.